Did you ever hear about the Apple engineer who almost single-handedly destroyed the biggest product launch in iPhone history? Now this guy's name is Gray, and Gray is 27 years old when the story starts, and he works on the iPhone baseband software team at Apple. Serious job, big company, and Apple trusts him enough to hand him a working prototype of their next iPhone to take out in the public and field test in the real world. Now here's the thing about this prototype. Apple has it disguised in a plastic shell to make it look exactly like the regular iPhone 3GS, so nobody in public notices it. Inside that shell is a phone that in 2010 does not officially exist. It has a front-facing camera that doesn't exist yet, a high-res display that doesn't exist yet, a completely redesigned body that nobody outside of Apple has ever seen. This thing is so secret that if a competitor even got their eyes on it for an hour, Apple's entire product roadmap would be cooked. Years of work, billions of dollars, just gone. And Gray was given one rule: do not let this phone out of your sight. So it's March 18th, 2010. It's Gray's birthday. And he decides to go out and celebrate at a German beer garden called Gourmet Haus Stott in Redwood City, California, about 20 miles from Apple headquarters in Northern California. Far enough that nobody at work is going to see him. Place is packed, the beer is cold, and Gray, the most important phone on the planet sitting in his jacket pocket, is having a really good time. A little too good of a time. At some point during the night, he takes out this prototype phone and posts to his Facebook and updates his status, which the entire world would eventually read, and he wrote, quote, "I underestimate how good German beer is." That is the last thing Gray Powell ever typed on that phone. Because after he types that, he gets up, says goodbye to nobody in particular, and walks out into the night. And he leaves the future of Apple sitting on a bar stool. So now a 21-year-old named Brian Hogan is sitting nearby. A random guy coming back from the bathroom spots the phone on an empty bar stool and just hands it to Brian. He thinks it belongs to Brian's friend. Brian asks around, nobody claims it. The phone is in a fake iPhone 3GS case, so it just looks like someone lost their old iPhone. Brian takes it home, and at first he genuinely wants to return it. He starts messing around with it that night, trying to find the owner. He opens Facebook on that phone, trying to figure out who it belongs to, and right away, something felt weird to him. The camera crashed every time he tried to open it. There are two random barcodes stuck to the back, which is not something that shows up on a phone you'd buy at an Apple store. He thinks it's strange, but figures he'll just deal with it in the morning, and he goes to sleep. He wakes up, tries to turn the phone on. Dead screen. Little does he know that while he slept, Apple's top secret security team has been scrambling through the night trying to find the dead phone that he's been holding in his hand. They were able to remotely wipe it through MobileMe the second they realized Gray lost the phone. They also tried tracking it with Find My, but Find My was still in beta on iOS 4 and it didn't work properly. So the phone, built to be found, allegedly could not be found. Now Brian has a phone that's dead, feels off, has barcodes on the back. So what does he do? He calls Apple customer service. He tells them he found a phone. And the rep, who's never heard anything about classified prototype phones, because obviously not how Apple works, tells him it sounds like a knockoff. And he just hangs up. So Brian gets curious, starts picking around the edges of the case and realizes it doesn't quite fit right, like it's sitting on top of something. And Brian pulls a plastic shell off, and inside is a phone that in March 2010 looks like it's from the future. Brian Hogan, 21 years old, is now the first person outside of Apple to hold the iPhone 4. And possibly the first person on the planet to ever get accidental access to an unreleased iPhone. He then calls his buddy, Sage Wallower, and together they start trying to figure out what exactly they're holding, and they quickly put the pieces together. The phone is dead, Apple blew them off, and they can't verify any of the markings. This is clearly not a regular iPhone. And look, they're in Silicon Valley, they know how this works. If anyone would know what this is, it's the tech press. And if the tech press knows what it is, maybe it's worth something. So they start making calls. They reach out to a few different blogs, but it's Gizmodo that bites. Gizmodo initially offers $2,000. Brian holds out. Gizmodo comes back with $5,000 cash money, and Brian takes it. And 1 month later, On my sister's birthday, April 19, 2010, Gizmodo editor Jason Chen tears the phone apart on camera and publishes the full story. Photos, internals, design, everything. Apple's biggest secret gone. And to this day, definitely the biggest Apple leak of all time. And then Steve Jobs found out. And think about that for a second, what that actually means. This is 2010. Steve Jobs is arguably the most powerful person in the tech industry. Apple is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. They have an entire legal team, a PR team, a security team, an executive team full of people whose entire job it is to handle situations just like this one. And Steve Jobs, instead of delegating this to any of those people, picks up his personal cell phone and calls the editorial director of a tech blog himself. Brian Lamb is sitting there and his phone rings. He looks at it. It's Steve Jobs. He picks it up, and Jobs didn't yell, and he didn't threaten. He just said very calmly, "This is Steve. I'd like my phone back." Cold and professional. But if you know anything about Steve Jobs, is somehow way worse than him yelling. Now by this point, Gizmodo had already gotten everything they needed. The story was published, the photos were everywhere, the internet had completely exploded. I was covering this, everybody in the planet was into this, every tech site was running the story. Gizmodo had already won, and what they were sitting on now, this piece of hardware that's no longer a scoop, was evidence. So, they returned it. And you'd think that'd be the end of the story. But 4 days later, on April 23rd, bam! The React task force shows up at Jason Chen's house. Now React, R-E-A-C-T, stands for Rapid Enforcement Allied Computer Team. It is a multi-agency law enforcement unit built to handle tech crime in Silicon Valley. And here's a part of the story that made a lot of people uncomfortable. Guess who sits on the steering committee of React? Apple. Meaning the same company whose phone got leaked helped fund the direct task force that just showed up at a journalist's house with a battering ram. They use it on Chen's front door while he and his wife are out at dinner and sees 22 items. Servers, hard drives, external storage, and his paper notebooks. Now ultimately, no charges are filed against Chen or Gizmodo. The case ends up sort of redefining California shield law around journalists and trade secrets. Brian Hogan and Sage Wallower both plead no contest to misdemeanor misappropriation of lost property. 1 year probation, 40 hours of community service. And after lawyer fees, Brian later admitted that he actually lost money on that $5,000. And here's the kicker. The iPhone 4 launch was an absolute disaster. I remember watching this live thinking it would be perfect if Steve Jobs pulled Gray on stage. He didn't. Steve Jobs got on stage at WWDC to demo FaceTime, and the Wi-Fi dies in front of a room full of journalists, most of whom had already seen the phone.
Stop me if you've already seen this.
Then, after the phone ships, antenna gates hits. Remember, it turns out if you hold it in your hand wrong, the signal drops. Apple's solution, everybody gets a rubber bumper. The most anticipated phone in years, and it came with essentially a rubber band. So over the span of a month after the iPhone 4 fell into the wrong hands, let's take stock of how this all shook out. Jason Chen got his door battered in and property seized. Brian Hogan did community service and lost money. Sage Wallower got probation. Gizmodo themselves spent years fighting a legal battle that rewrote California shield law. Steve Jobs had to personally call a blogger to get his phone back. And Gray Powell, the Apple engineer responsible for all of this, he kept his job and stayed at Apple for years. And every single person who touched that phone after Gray paid some kind of price. The only one who walked away clean was the guy who left it on the bar stool in the first place. But here's the thing, despite all of that, the iPhone 4 went on to be one of the best-selling phones Apple's ever made. And a lot of people would still argue it's the greatest iPhone ever built. It was the last one Steve Jobs personally took the stage to reveal. The last one where Johnny Ive's design was a genuine surprise. The last one where the world had no idea it was coming until it showed up on a bar stool in Redwood City. Because after this, CAD files started leaking months before every launch, and the magic was gone forever. And if you look at the iPhone today, the flat edges, the glass back, industrial design, it looks far closer to the iPhone 4 than anything Apple has made in the decade in between. Gray Powell lit the future of a smartphone on a bar stool, and it turned out to be a masterpiece. And the last thing he ever typed in that prototype was, "I underestimated how good German beer is. This video was a ton of fun to make and write. I want to give a huge shout out to my inspiration who I've been watching for years for the style of video, Ray William Johnson. Thank you. If you haven't heard of him, most of you probably have. He's like 10 times larger than I am. But link to his channel will be down below.